Another crazy story I remember hands down. Um, Man, it was the love triangle. It was the prison love triangle gone bad. Again, it's not everybody, but it does happen. Guys do get in relationships with one another. It is what it is. It's their preference, their choice. Who am I? But when you live in a dorm, you see the same 86 people every day. You know everybody's business. Like, honestly, you may not know the extent of everybody's business, but you at least got a general idea of what's going on. And not only that, people talk and talk like they're in high school. Talk about each other behind each other's back. Right hand, every right hand has a right hand and more. So, anyways, in this situation, or I guess event that I'm speaking about, there was an individual. He got into a relationship. Got a companion boyfriend behind bars. One of the individuals was getting ready to come home. He was getting ready to go home. He had, at the time, I guess less than a year, then eventually less than 6 months. He had got close enough to the door where it was time to go. Up until this point, he had been dealing with his boyfriend probably, I don't know, probably a year prior, 2 years, I don't know. He did not know that he was going to go home. He was, I guess, expecting to possibly be there for the rest of his life, but he ended up making parole after becoming parole eligible when there was a change in the law. When that happened, evidently his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, or whatever came back into his life. She started to visit. And naturally, I guess, his boyfriend would often be jealous and have feelings. And you could see it when he'd come back from visit, seeing his girl, etc. You could see them in the pod arguing, just like a couple would, in disagreement, quarreling. And then oftentimes you would hear them go into the cell and hear them tussling and actually fighting physically. They were cell partners. Well, as he got closer to the door because he had made parole, and the other guy that he was in a relationship with was not going home. He had a life sentence, or at least he wasn't going home anytime soon. The animosity, the resentment, the attitude, all of that became worse. And we seen it in the pod. And there were oftentimes we were surprised that the COs didn't do anything like move one out the block because they were having full on domestic disputes in the pod. And ironically enough, what I find, again, to each his own, but the correctional officers, if it's two individuals, two regular individuals fighting, they're quick to run in there, break it up, make sure the individuals go to the hole, etc. But in this case, the guards almost laughed it off and treated it like it was nothing. Well, evidently, enough was enough after one visitation. And, he went to visitation. The one gentleman went to visitation, seen his girl, his companion from the outside, who he'd be returning to in society, who he would often brag about, even in front of his boyfriend that was behind bars with him. And he went to visit on a Sunday. And when he came back, everything was normal. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like they were cool. They were in the block. Everybody, the games were on. So, one thing I will say, as much as an individual may not agree with another person's way of life, everybody's going to keep it respectful. And the reason I remember this certain situation is because they came to my store box that night and they got some food to make a meal for the game. Thought nothing of it. Two people making a meal together, or the homeboys making a meal together. Usually that means ain't nothing going on. Ain't nobody stressed. They just trying to chill for the evening. And business is business. I'm going to take your money. Cool, let's get it. Man, the next morning, because everything was cool that night, everybody was in the pod, no lockdowns, no fights, no nothing. We didn't hear no drama like sometimes we did amongst people, specifically them. But then at night, or the next day, excuse me, all hell broke loose. It was about a 5:45. That's why I say depending. It was 5:45 count. So early morning, in the night, etc. Before the shift changed for that compound when it came to the correctional officers. And when they were coming around for count, man, all of a sudden you just heard somebody just screaming, just going crazy out loud. And we could tell it was one of the guards. And evidently, in short, the jealous boyfriend that was not going home had evidently became enraged, or they had got into it again, or maybe he just couldn't take the fact that his boyfriend was going home, I don't know, to be with his other companion. I don't know. But evidently it became so bad that he decided to unalive him, take his life. The gentleman that was getting ready to come home, just, a few weeks, months, whatever, prior to him actually leaving prison. That was it. It happened. Jealousy, rage, whatever. When they pulled him out the cell, there was so much red stuff on him that we already knew. We already knew. Without seeing the other guy, we already knew when we were looking out our cell doors, listening to the holler, we already knew. If you've done enough time, you don't have to see the aftermath or the rest. The other part that I'll say, and I don't know how true this is, because it was so bad, and anybody that's been incarcerated, they may have been in this situation. If somebody's unalived in a cell, sometimes they'll go by, before they pull the individual out of the cell, they'll put blinders or blockers over the cell windows so the guys can't look out and see what's happening. So I can't verify the next part, but I do remember guys were saying that he had attempted even to do something that he could potentially try to flush the guy down the toilet or something, which obviously we know that didn't work. It was impossible. I don't even know if that last part was true, but we have heard cases where guys have actually attempted to do that when unalive one of their cellies, etc. It's scary. And that's it. That's one of the craziest hands down situations I've seen. And man, not for nothing, I got a million more.